Hello, viewers. Tonight, I'm going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3. I had pre-ordered this game when, they were doing their, what was it called, early access. And during that time, during early access, for those of you who do not know, we only could play a small part of the game. That was called Act 1, I believe. And as far as I know, the Act 1 then was bigger than the Act 1 that we currently have. Now, the gameplay that you were seeing is someone else's. I did not arrange gameplay this time, and so I just decided, I might as well use someone else's gameplay. But as I was saying, during the early access, it was an interesting time. It was in early access for years. And a lot of us, we would just, occasionally just play through Act 1, see what updates they had done to improve the game. And Act 1 was basically, I suppose you would say, was a decent size. And they had that out for years. Now, many of us who had played the game back then, we thought, okay, this is Act 1. When the full game releases, it's going to be far bigger. It is going to be far bigger. Many of us thought, this game is going to be huge. We kept hearing basically reports from different media outlets that Baldur's Gate was going to be huge. And a lot of people like myself were quite excited. We thought, this game is going to have so many different areas. We're going to be able to go to, all types of different environments and do all types of different things. I was thrilled when Baldur's Gate released, what was it, earlier last month, I do believe. When I'd gotten that, the full release, I thought, all right, this is going to be, I am finally going to play a game that is going to be worth my $60. And so I was just absolutely thrilled. But unfortunately, I might as well get to the main contention that I have with this product, and basically just state the facts. This game was very short. When I tell you that when we played Act 1 during early access and we saw basically most of the environment for this game, and we played for the most part a big chunk of it there in Act 1, I am not lying. This game was extremely short, and let me be honest, it had a lot in it. The game had a great deal in it. However, the lack of different environments. You see this environment here with the forest, and it looks good, it looks pretty. It looks really nice. There are not many of these. There are not many of these environments. To be honest. You're not going to really be in the forest areas for very long. In other words, let me put it this way. This was very fun that you are in the wilderness. I think every game, every RPG is improved when you have a certain degree of time, especially a long time in the wilderness. In other words, your city areas, when you get to your city or town areas, just like in Dragon's Dogma, the idea is that, yes, you have, little quests and objectives in the cities. But the difference is the city area is not supposed to be basically where the game sort of, how should I put this? The action and the adventure should not really be based in the city, especially when you consider the fact that in a lot of these city areas you have a high degree of NPCs. You have, basically FPS drops. You have frame rate drops because there's so many different NPCs in the cities. So, if we're using common sense, obviously the idea is in most RPGs is you use the city as a hub area. And basically you go out and explore. Now, Act 1 and Act 2, but especially Act 1 was very fun. Why was Act 1 very fun? Why did they give us Act 1 in early access to give us a taste of that sort of adventure in the wilderness? The reason they gave us Act 1 was because they knew that they were going to rush this game, or that they were going to make this game basically, sort of situated in the city. And this was a very ridiculous, dumb idea. This was not particularly good for us as players. Let me put it that way. It was not particularly good for us because we did not really get to experience a high degree of environments. We were playing the game, but after Act 1 and Act 2, we're in the city. And, once we're in the city, we stay in the city. We don't get out of the city. Basically, you can't go back to the places which you came out of. You can't go out in the wilderness and explore. All right? This was done so poorly in Baldur's Gate 3. The fact that you can't just go out and explore into the wilderness, into the forest, to go to different lands and have different adventures in different areas is ridiculous. This game had a lot of potential to be very enjoyable, but when I realized, okay, I'm in Act 3, and I'm going to stay in the city, and I'm not going to be able to come out the city, it makes you feel trapped. And Act 3 was so poorly done. Basically, you have 3 big boss enemies you have to fight. Never mind the fact that the first boss, basically there's for those who don't want to be spoiled, try to, close your ears or, well, actually, let me be honest. This is basically a review. So, I might as well say it. There are 3 big bosses, basically associated with the Dead 3, these gods of sort of Faerun, who are the gods of death, apparently. They come from earlier games in the Baldur's Gate series. They come from D&D. So you have 3 big bosses who all represent those gods. The first guy you fight, Ketheric. Ketheric is harder than basically Gortash and Orin. I mean, you have to fight him 2 times. Alright? So when you think about it, a lot of the challenge sort of passed, basically you're in the city. You really, when I think of quests that you do in the city is not that big. To be honest, the city is not massive. Apparently there was cut content where you could go up to the upper city. And apparently there was a lot of cut content in this game. But it really is interesting. This game is called Baldur's Gate. And, probably you spend most of your time in Baldur's Gate. But in my opinion, and I really have not played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. I have seen videos of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. But basically, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, as far as I know, you could go to different places. I mean, there are other different D&D games that have been released where You're not stuck in the city. You can go to different areas. Okay? In this game, during Act 3, you cannot go, it's very linear. This game is very linear. To be honest, let me say this. There are a lot of RPGs that I could say are better than Baldur's Gate 3. For example, Final Fantasy 13, you can go to more areas. When you think about it, the characters of Final Fantasy 13 are more interesting, and that's a game. Final Fantasy 13 is a game that I would say, oh, that's a very boring JRPG. However, when I think about Baldur's Gate 3, how many areas do I go to? I get to go to Druid's Grove. I get to go to, the Shadow Cursed Lands, with the Thorn family, and Baldur's Gate. So basically, that's about 3 different areas. Okay? 3 different areas. This game is so short. It is ridiculous how short this game is. And people, I wish I was joking, but I am not joking. When I first started playing this game, I started to think, you know what? This game is better than Dragon Age. Origins, even. But now I've recognized that, what the truth is that Dragon Age was longer than Baldur's Gate 3. And when I think about it, when I think about just how much fun I had with Dragon Age, I will say this. In my opinion, Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition are all better games than Baldur's Gate 3. Because Baldur's Gate 3 is so short. You only have 3 big areas. Okay, you have... And it's these areas, let me just say this. Sure, there's some big battles in the game. But, to be honest, when I think about Divinity Original Sin 2, which was another game Larian had made, and when I think about Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, the Pathfinder games make this game look pathetic. They really do. I mean, you see, Larian basically got people to buy the game early access. And there were a lot of people who did it. And Larian got a lot of money from that. People didn't know how the game was going to be, but you see, they knew Larian had a good reputation, and they bought this game. And what happened is essentially what happens a lot of times. You see, Larian rushed the game, or Larian just decided to make a short game. And to be honest, there are a lot of problems with that. Because no matter how much quality the game has, if the game is short and there is not much to do, and the endings are not very interesting or exciting, it really makes, it is not a very good the game does not have very good replay value. Let me put it that way. The replay value is pretty terrible. D&D rules are generally not, they can be fun. This game proves that D&D, that if you adapt D&D rules to a video game, sure, it can be quite good. Now, is it as good as what Larian did with Divinity Original Sin 2? Not in my opinion, but still, it is pretty fun. However, I honestly think that this was sort of a cash grab. Let me put it this way. Hey people, do you remember that game Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance on the PS2? Do you remember Dark Alliance 2? Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2. And no, I'm not talking about that game that came out that was newer called Dark Alliance. No, I'm talking about the old PS2 Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance made on Snowblind engine. Let me really emphasize how much, just how sort of short and unsatisfying this game is. I had more fun playing Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2. Those were sort of spin-off titles from Baldur's Gate. But they were still more fun than this. Why? Because basically the game, it had more areas. So let me put it this way. My problem with Baldur's Gate 3 does not have to do with how long the game is. It has to do with how few areas and environments we get to interact with. Alright? The game is pretty short, and the game does not have many places to go in it. Okay? And this, I have never been more disappointed. You see, I can say that Elden Ring, for the most part, is a big, open, empty, sort of a big, empty, open world with very few NPCs. And I can say that Elden Ring is dissatisfying in that way. However, there's something to be said about just sightseeing and just going around with your little characters and looking at the beautiful areas and sort of, basically looking at how beautiful the game is. I mean, they apparently Larian got this nice engine. They have this new graphical engine now. They made the game look very good. And that was wonderful. However, it seems as though they really did not take full advantage of it because we only have a few areas in the game. The story was very in-depth. We have a very interesting cast of characters. Most of them I don't like. The only character I liked in this game was Minthara. She was pretty interesting as a character, and another reason I liked her was because she was one of the few characters in this game that had an American, or rather, I don't know what accent she has. I don't think she had a British accent. But I really liked the voice acting for Minthara. I really liked, that particular character. She was our only drow companion. Alright? But Minthara was pretty good. And during early access, there were a lot of people like myself who were really excited about Minthara's role in the story. And I think they did Minthara pretty well. However, I would say that for me, once again, my complaints have to do with the length of the game. The game, and for those of you who've not played this game, let me just tell you, this game is way too short. And some of you may say, I want to buy the game, I want to buy it full price. And I'm going to tell you, save your money. Save your money. You will have fun with this game, just like I had fun with this game, but let me say something. I had more fun playing Dragon Age Origins. I had more fun playing Dragon Age 2. I had more fun playing Dragon Age Inquisition. I had more fun playing Skyrim. Okay. I had more fun playing the Dark Alliance Baldur's Gate spin-offs. No, not the new Dark Alliance. I'm talking about the old classic Dark Alliance games. I had more fun playing Champions of Norath than this. And this really sort of made me recognize how important environments are in these video games. It used to be that I just used to think, hey, I like a long game. But now I've sort of matured to the point where, you know what, even if the game is short, if I get to go to different places, I now recognize that is very important because in this game I got to talk to all types of people. I got to have a whole host of different interesting companions. They talked a lot. I got to do quests and different things related to all of them and sort of see, what they had to say in the ending. The ending was terrible, by the way. The ending did not even feel like an ending. So, what do I think Larian is planning to do with this? With this whole game and what it has turned out to be? I think that they are going to try to release DLC for us. I think they're going to try to basically add stuff into the game. However, what we have now is basically the base of this game. The game is going to end in the city. The game is going to end in Baldur's Gate. And once you get to Baldur's Gate, you cannot go outside of Baldur's Gate. You cannot go outside of it. I'm not joking. There was a time I used to think, for all those people who want to call Final Fantasy 13 linear, or even Final Fantasy games in general linear, hey, you can't even say that anymore. You can't even say that anymore, people. You really cannot. You cannot say, or you can, but you'll be hypocrites. A lot of people say, oh, JRPGs are linear. Final Fantasy is linear. A lot of these Japanese RPGs are so linear. However, to be entirely honest, I recognize that this game is one of the most linear games I've ever played. Once you get to Act 3, you feel like you have so much freedom. The problem is you are stuck in the city, and here's the problem with the city. In most RPGs, when you get to cities, they have terrible frame rate. So just imagine trying to complete a game in Act 3 when you have this terrible frame rate in the cities. The game slows down when you're in the big city. So this is why a lot of RPGs, they know this. It's just like in Dragon's Dogma. In a particular very good RPG called Dragon's Dogma, you had a city, Grand Soren, and basically in Dragon's Dogma, you could go into the city, but you could go outside of the city. You didn't stay in the city the whole time. If you stayed in the city the whole time, that would be pretty stupid. You can go outside of the city, you can do different things. Okay? Now, in Act 3 of Baldur's Gate 3, you are basically restricted. Your movement is restricted. You can't teleport anywhere else. No, you are in the city. There's nothing else to do outside. And a lot of us, when we were playing Act 3, we thought, wait, excuse me, we thought we will be able to go outside of the city at some point. And we were very excited. I myself was very excited. I thought, okay, eventually we're going to be able to go outside of the city. Unfortunately, we can do no such thing. We are going to end that game in Baldur's Gate. And I just thought, why? We should be able to go outside of Baldur's Gate. We should be able to do different things. Go outside of Baldur's Gate, come back to Baldur's Gate, do different things. It feels like the game was rushed. It feels like the game is especially short. It feels like the scope of our adventure is so limited. I don't think I've been this dissatisfied in an ending in a long time. This is why my whole view of a lot of the Final Fantasy games that were released that I used to think were so linear. I used to hate endings for games like Final Fantasy 13. I used to think that ending is terrible. But now, I just think, wow, I cannot really say that anymore. I used to think, you know what, Dragon Age could have did so many different things better. But now when I think about it, when I think about the ending for Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age Origins had so much better ending than this game. Basically, in the ending of this game, your companion characters say a little something. You walk out on the docks close to some water or river, and basically, I'm not sure if it's a river, but anyway, you basically are by some ships or something. And I mean, I just put it this way. most companies try to make better games than their previous games. And I will just put it this way, Divinity Original Sin was better. In terms of length, in terms of the places you could go, in terms of the classes, in terms of the gameplay. And there really is not very much of a problem with the gameplay. I can deal with the gameplay. The problem I have is that in this game, basically, it gives us too little. Why would I want to play this game when I can play Dragon's Dogma? Why would I want to play this game when I can play any of the Dragon Age games? If I want to play a Final Fantasy game, even Final Fantasy is better than this. You know, and why? It is because I get to go to more places. I know the game is going to be a decent length. Okay, it's going to be longer. It's going to be, you know, I mean, there's just too little in this game. I see now on YouTube, a lot of the cast for the voice actors, they're doing different promotional things to sort of get attention to the game. But to be honest, this game is short. Let me be honest. Very short. Now, let me talk about another interesting subject, and that has to do with how liberal the game is in terms of culture, so to speak. A lot of people, they're going to say woke. Oh, the game is woke, because they love using that term, which is a foundational Black American term, which has nothing to do with these little culture wars. But, you know, conservatives like using it, and they, you know, not all conservatives, but especially a lot of, you know, younger people who, you know, they have no concern for culture. They have no concern for Black American culture, and so they really do not care about using the term woke. I'm going to say liberal. Let me put it this way, to summarize it for you. Basically, in this game, we have the things you would expect. If you want a lesbian relationship, if you want a gay relationship, you can have it. Okay? Or I try not to say gay because that means happy, you know, sodomitic, you know, homosexual, whatever. You can have those relationships. I mean, you can make sort of a transgender character. You can do all types of different things, to be honest. Do you have to? No, you don't. You do not have to. You will see a lot of homosexual relationships in this game. They have a particular, they have a homosexual angel woman. What do you call them? Azamar, who's supposed to be a daughter of Selune. And apparently, you know, she's just going around sort of, I mean, you have to see it to believe it. She's going to do some crazy stuff. Basically, on every playthrough, I sort of had her killed. I had Shadowheart kill the crazy sort of, you know, homosexual angel woman, because she did not act very angelic at all. She had a real temper, and she was just an obnoxious and annoying character to me. But, I mean, there are a lot of liberal decisions, if you can call them that, you know, in terms of just a lot of the culture in this game. But is it that bad in terms of just, you know, interaction? It's just like I say, you don't have to do any of the gay stuff. You don't have to make a character and engage in a homosexual relationship. You don't have to do it. And if the other characters flirt with you and they happen to be of the same sex, you can reject it anyway. So, you know, there really is no real problem for me. Not really. I did notice that they did something with the child characters. What they do is that they basically do this whole gender neutral clothing thing, where in other words, a lot of the boys and girls, they're not dressed in clothing that is sort of, feminine or sort of basically the girls dress in boys' clothes, the boys dress in boys' clothes, some of the girls dress in girls' clothes, but you see it's very rare. And I will put it this way. This is a game where you can't tell the boys from the girls. And I'm not talking about the adult characters. I'm talking about the child characters. I'm talking about the children. You can't really tell, until you talk to them. You can look at the little boy characters and the little girl characters. You won't tell the difference between boy or girl characters. And for some of you who are not very familiar with the culture that's very popular in countries like Sweden, this game, Larian, or the game company Larian, they're based in Europe somewhere, so they're sort of more familiar with this whole gender neutral culture because that is very popular in Europe. In other words, in Europe, there's this whole idea that if a boy or girl, they have to decide if they're a boy or girl. That's their idea, and that they think, well, you have to make everything gender neutral because if the boy decides he's a boy or if the girl decides she's a girl, then they are that. But if they decide that there's something else, they are that too. So these are their ideas. So I noticed that in this game, basically as you're playing, you are going to see that you'll look at the little boy and girl characters, and you'll realize, hey, you can't really tell the difference if they're little boys and little girls unless you start talking to them. Because if you do not talk to them, you do not know if they are little boys or little girls. Let me put it that way. But the game is, in terms of its mechanics, in terms of how it plays, sure, the game plays really good. Now, as far as the liberal stuff, it for people like me, it does get somewhat annoying, but it wasn't something that I could not deal with, but I must say, I have been wondering if this was even worth my money. I mean, it really has caused me to think that, my $60 back then was ill spent. Do I regret buying the game entirely? Not necessarily, but now I think I sort of wonder, how could I have been deceived? Why did I think this game was going to be so much bigger? I have no idea. Excuse me for one moment, people. I really should bring water when I do these podcasts. But anyhow, I don't know. I really don't. I will say this. When I downloaded the game was over 100 gigabytes. This game was, 120 gigabytes or 130 gigabytes, if not more than that. It's a huge game. So people are talking about DLC, and I think for a game this short to take so much space on your hard drive or solid state drive, that is kind of, I will put it this way. To me, I do not like that, and it makes me wonder, where's all that hard drive Where's all that hard drive space going? This game is huge on your hard drive, on your solid state drive. Alright, it is huge. most of the space on your computer, I hope you have decided to clear some off, because when you install this game, oh my goodness, it's going to eat up a lot of your data. It's going to eat up a lot of your space on your PC. Okay, I do not know how big it is on console, but it certainly is big on on PC. So considering how short the game is, how few environments you have to explore, it really does not seem to warrant it. And I've looked at the graphics. The graphics are not that good to where they warrant this big, huge size of the, of data. Now, why is it so big? I have no idea. Let me put this in perspective. Elden Ring, a game where you can go to so many different areas and places. That game, when it first came out, without the updates basically, it was around 60 gigabytes. Okay, I think basically, Baldur's Gate 3 is way bigger. I mean, it's over, as far as I know, 120 gigabytes. So, at this point, I think I'm at the point where I am going to be playing a different game. I'm going to be basically soon, and I'm going to be getting more space on my PC so I can play something else, to be honest. I really wish I could have had my own gameplay footage for this video, but the game stutters for me, and to me, my PC and how I have it optimized, I have some problems with it. In terms of just capturing gameplay that is smooth and doesn't have a lot of stutters. I mean, my frame rate is stable for the most part, but I still have problems. So, is the game optimized well? They are still fixing things. The game plays mostly well, but for a person like me who does not have the very best PC, no, I use someone else's gameplay for this podcast. So, I mean, that's what you see in the background. But I will say that at this point, whatever DLC they come out with, it is not going to really improve this product that much. And the reason I say this is because many people think DLC can really sort of save a game. But I'll put it this way. What you have in the main game should be a good deal of content. It should have a good deal of areas, that you can go to. Because if you have a game that, is fairly small in terms of scope, and this game is fairly small in terms of scope, and when I say scope, what I'm talking about are places that you can go to, different environments. I am not joking when I say I actually explored more of a game like the old Dark Alliance games on the PS2. Okay. Then this game. This game is beautiful. This game has a lot of different areas and different things that you would like to do, but the problem is that there are not many places to go. I think one of the worst things you could possibly do in an RPG is to restrict setting to the city. Cities are not exciting. Cities are good as hub areas. Cities are good when you just want to explore and talk to people and buy items. And sure, you do a few things in the city, but you don't go to the city and just stay there. No. You want to go out, explore the wilderness, go outside, come back to the city, do things like that. There are major problems with this game. There really are. So, for those of you who, are rather dissatisfied or, are wondering, hey, what is a better experience? I would say play Divinity Original Sin or Pathfinder. Play the Pathfinder games, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. You will have a better experience. Go back and play the old Dragon Age games. You will have a better experience. You will have some fun because, sure, Baldur's Gate is really good in some ways, but when I think about, especially even companions, are these companions better than maybe the ones that, are they much better than characters that you would find in Dragon Age? Not really. The only companion character that I think is just really great in Baldur's Gate 3 is Minthara. And you see, Minthara would have looked totally different if it were not for a lot of us in the Larian forums who were saying, hey, you changed the character model and cut a lot of her hair off, and we want her to look, like she used to. And what they really did was improve Minthara's image. They were going to make Minthara look completely different. Okay? The reason Minthara looks as good as she does is because a lot of us complained about Minthara's design. And I think, they decided to make Minthara, they gave Minthara basically long hair, and that was one of the contentions a lot of us had, because you see, a lot of us were having a romance with Minthara, and so for us, Minthara had to look good, and we complained on the Larian forums, but we couldn't save the game. We couldn't save the game. None of us can make the game longer. None of us can really change Act 3, or how Act 3 turned out, or how these people made Act 3. So, I have never really felt this sad or disappointed. I often have not. And, for me, it's kind of sad, but what can I do? A lot of us were waiting years for this game, and we thought this game was going to be so big, and they really advertised it that way, and I have to remember never to take the sort of game publication seriously. They were telling us that this game was 70 hours long. This game is not 70 hours long. This game is probably 20 hours long. I'm not joking. This game is so short. Okay. It is not even a joke how short this game is. And it's not necessarily that it's necessarily short. It's just that the replay value is stunted, because when you get to Act 3 and you basically are just in a city, I don't think anyone wants to sort of spend basically half their game time in the city. And that's what most of us have been doing, because we can't go anywhere else. We're basically restricted to Baldur's Gate, and that is terrible. A lot of us feel this game is just, it's just absolutely, the way it turned out, it was not how we thought it would be. When a lot of us played that early access, where we're exploring areas like this, we thought this was going to be what the game was. We thought this was going to be what we were doing. We thought we were going to be going over hills and going in the forest and going in the wilderness and, outside of the city, and that we would be able to go to Baldur's Gate and then travel around to different places, at least for a while. Okay, we didn't think it's just going to be 3 areas, but that's basically what we have. We have Druid's Grove, the area surrounding it, basically a forest area, Shadow Curse Lands area, which is basically a forest area with with shadows and basically curses. And we have Baldur's Gate. And we also have a little temple area. And that's it. And basically the temple area is basically connected to the shadow area. You know, it's a very small area. So a lot of us like to do sightseeing. We like to go to different places just to see the sights. And you know, when you're doing that, you get to relax. And you get to really see how beautiful the game is. But does Baldur's Gate look that good? No, it doesn't look that good. It's not that exciting of a place to go. Alright. And you know, this game would have been very much more exciting if it had more areas. And I think that really is the problem that I and a lot of other people have. It's not necessarily how short the game is. Though it is short. It is short in terms of basically how long this game is. Yes, it is short. Is there enough dialogue in the game for the companion characters? Personally, I think, and some people may disagree with this, I think there was plenty of character dialogue. The problem is that the game is short. I felt pretty satisfied by the sort of my interactions with the companions, but I would like to go on more adventures with them. The problem is the game is so short that I just think, hey, you could have added more areas than Baldur's Gate. Let us go to at least 2 or 3 more areas. Why does it, you know, they trapped us in Baldur's Gate. We cannot go outside of Baldur's Gate. We cannot go outside of Baldur's Gate walls. And I think that's terrible. Basically, it's when you get to Baldur's Gate, it's Baldur's Gate in the sewers. It's basically, you know, above the city and the sewers. That's it. And then you have a big fight, and the game ends. So, this was not done very well. This was rushed. Now, I have to be fair, because there was in one of my previous podcasts, I'd said, you know, Elden Ring was rushed because of all the cut content. I have to say the same thing about Baldur's Gate 3 now. I have to say Baldur's Gate 3 was rushed. But you see, Baldur's Gate 3 was rushed in a different way. In other words, in Elden Ring, I can say Elden Ring had plenty of areas. The problem with Elden Ring is that there's not enough NPCs in those areas. There's not enough items in those areas. There's not enough weapons and armor in those areas. In Baldur's Gate, there is plenty in the areas. There's plenty of characters. There's plenty of NPCs. The problem is this. In Baldur's Gate, the problem has to do with is that there are not enough areas. So really, these games have been rushed in different ways. These games are lacking different things. Are they both very sort of enjoyable games? Yes, they are, but they have different problems. And for Baldur's Gate 3, I think Baldur's Gate could potentially have been better than Dragon Age Origins. I really do. But why would I play Baldur's Gate 3 when I can play Dragon Age Origins and go to places like Orzammar? Why would I play Baldur's Gate 3 and play in Baldur's Gate when I can go to places like, you know, all of the different areas that games like Dragon Age have, or, you know, or even the old PS2 games of Dark Alliance, where you got to travel to a whole, you know, you get to travel underground, you get to fight drow, you get to talk to dwarves, you get to do a lot of different interesting things. So, you know what this game makes me want to do? Just play it just makes me want to play Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. That's what it makes me want to do, because this game disappoints me. I actually got to go to more different looking areas in Dark Alliance than I did in this game. And at this point, I think I probably would enjoy even the new Dark Alliance compared to Baldur's Gate 3. Probably not, because I heard the new Dark Alliance was pretty terrible. But it's just that this game, I cannot express my disappointment. Because you see, a lot of us, Larian has produced good games before. And you know, there was a game called Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. They have their own rule set. I think it's based on D&D, but it's a lot more enjoyable. So, you know, to be honest, I really do not enjoy this game because it's just too short. I mean, I enjoyed it, you know, but now I see what it is. I'm not really excited for DLC in this game, and I have a feeling, you know, whatever they add to it is not going to be. I have a feeling that they are not going to add new areas, especially because of how big this game is on the PC. I think there's going to be DLC, but you have to wait a long time for DLC. Okay, that takes a long time for them to create. So they're going to spend their time drinking their champagne, the developers, and really celebrating their sales for a while before they make some DLC. And for me, I just think I could be playing other games. This is very disappointing. I mean, the replay value is, you know, this game is short. I mean, eventually there are going to be more YouTubers who are going to be saying this game is short, real short. Okay, is the game hard? Sure, it can be hard, but there are ways to basically, there are plenty of different ways to cheat this game. And as far as the endings are concerned, it makes it seem like all the choices that you made don't matter. If you try to be an evil character, you're basically not allowed to. Because, I mean, basically they try to make it seem as though, oh, you can be an evil character, but in the end you cannot be. Because the evil ending is just stupid. The evil ending is basically just no real nuance to it. You don't really get to do very much, or, you know, it's just one scene. You get to sit on a throne. You know, in that sense, it's kind of similar to Elden Ring endings, in that in Elden Ring, the ending is you sitting on the throne. The evil ending in this game is you sit on the throne. You know, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil it too much. But it's not really exciting. The evil ending is not really exciting. And basically none of your companion characters, even the evil companion character, even Minthara. Here, Minthara tells you to do the evil ending. But the funny thing is that when you try to do the evil ending, Minthara's like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, you can't do this. And I'm thinking, wait, Minthara, you told me to take the evil ending. You told me to control the nether brain, the sort of the giant brain thing. You told me to control the giant brain thing. You told me to do it, but now you don't want to do it. You're backing out. It's stupid. So I mean, you know, I really do not know what to say. I would just say that basically, in a sense, if you take the good ending, you're helping the Gif Yankee. If you take the evil ending, what you are doing is that you're basically helping to create a new Illithid empire, or you're helping the Dead 3 or something, you know, or basically you're, you know, helping yourself to rule over everything, but it's not done in a very inventive or exciting way. It is probably one of the most boring endings I have ever seen. And I feel sad saying that, but I just have to be honest. That was a terrible ending. I mean, oh my goodness. It makes me just absolutely sick to be, I mean, it's just awful. It really is. So I think I probably will be playing Armored Core 6 next. Maybe I'll even go back to Elden Ring. I don't know. But at this point, I have a feeling, I feel like playing, I don't know. I'm going to have to look around. I was really excited about Baldur's Gate. In many ways, it succeeded. But there are so many failures that I see in this game. And it's not as though the game, well, I put it this way, it failed in the biggest possible way it could. And it failed in that it did not give us enough. And when I say that, perhaps it could have given us the same amount, but they had to give me more freedom. I never thought I would be saying that that this game would be too linear, but it's very linear. When I am playing an RPG, I should not feel trapped, as though I need space to breathe. I need to be able to go out into the wilderness and sort of do different things. And the crafting system seems useless because you can't go outside of the world and just collect items. You can't do it. I think you have to buy most of them. So there really is not very much you can do. And I mean, that's the problem. When the ending comes, it seems like just about all of your decisions are inconsequential. Now, many of us, like myself, I will say this, many of us did not think they would make Minthara a companion character. But, because of a lot of us basically complaining and talking about, hey, we really like this character Minthara, I think that was sort of done. In my opinion, I would probably have enjoyed this game more if they made Minthara an origin character, because to me, I think Minthara, basically has as big a role in the story as any of the other characters. For Jaheira and Minsk, who were two of the older sort of OG, sort of original Baldur's Gate characters that they made in the earlier Baldur's Gate games, to me, I don't even think they needed to be in the game, to be honest, because you cannot even romance either of those characters. You can't romance them. And I just think, okay, you have these characters in the game, but they don't have full functionality. And before, apparently, Larian had said you can romance, these characters. You can romance Jaheira. Apparently, you could romance Minsk, but that was cut. You can't. Basically, they're incomplete characters. So, Minthara, although she is not an origin character, you can romance her. Though I would have liked it if there was an option to play as Minthara as an origin character. But there's none. There really is none. But I really did like that particular character a lot. And Minthara is probably the only saving grace for me in terms of why I continue to play the game, because I really liked that character. That was a good, well-written character, in my opinion, who had an interesting story. I really liked her as a character. I was excited about her in early access, because, to be honest, I didn't like Karlach. Karlach, was sort of a Mary Sue, and they used Karlach with her little skimpy outfit as sort of sex appeal. But Karlach really didn't have a very interesting personality. I did not like Will's personality. Will was just, oh, he's so good. And I'm just thinking, oh my goodness. And I'm thinking, I understand the nuances of his character, because he's a warlock, and apparently he made, a deal with a patron demon, and apparently he is just in some type of conflict. I understood that. Astarion to me is he's hypocritical. You know, Shadowheart is hypocritical. They're not really evil characters. And I thought Minthara was an evil character until you recognize, wait, Minthara doesn't have any type of real evil ending because I thought one of the reasons I continue to play with Minthara is because, you know, she seems as though she wants to take the evil ending. She wants to control the Netherbrain. The problem is that you realize is that she completely takes a 180 and she decides, wait, no, you know, what are you doing when you take the evil ending? And I'm thinking, wait, you wanted this. You wanted the evil ending to the game. And now you're telling me you're surprised that I'm taking the evil ending? But she did. You know, it's that defeats a lot of the purpose of Minthara's character. It really does defeat the purpose of a lot of Minthara's character. And the fact that, you know, all of the things you did to become a partial illithid, okay, you take the good ending, which is basically the only viable ending, and all of your tadpole powers, powers are gone away. The choice you made to become a half illithid is completely gone. You don't have it. You know, it's you no longer have that option. So without that option, I mean, what do you really, you know, I mean, all of that character progression, your choice didn't matter. Excuse me. Your choice to become a partial illithid or even a full illithid did not matter. Because, well, I mean, if you become a full illithid, if you become a mind flayer, you know, I haven't done that ending, but if you become a partial illithid, you don't get to stay a partial illithid. You know, everybody gets to have their tadpole taken away, and basically, you know, that's it. And as far as Karlach apparently had some type of terrible ending, and people complained. They said, why is Karlach's ending so bad? Karlach basically died and went to hell. I'm not joking. Or something like that happened. I mean, it was crazy, and it was so bad that Larian actually has updated that ending. So this game is not finished. This game is not finished. It will never be finished because the base game is terrible in terms of scope. If you mean to tell me we are trapped in the city, I could play other games where I can go outside of the city. Why would I want to be trapped in the city in Act 3 and not be able to go outside of Baldur's Gate? That is just ridiculous. No, I want to be able to do different things. At least for a while. This should have been the last area then. And it was the last area, but you see, if they were going to make it so that in the last act you were going to stay in Baldur's Gate, we should have been able to explore more before we got there. Exploring different areas. Going to different areas. But I mean, it really is sad that we played most of the game in early access. And a lot of us, I myself am starting to realize, most of what was in Baldur's Gate, we played in early access. That is really pathetic. And I cannot excuse that. I feel like I wasted my money and my time. Now, a lot of us got to have our satisfaction, you know, in a way, because they finally sort of made Minthara into a fully fledged character, and a lot of us complained about that. We said, hey, you know, change her appearance, sort of update her appearance, you know, sort of make this character more substantial because we really like her. That was probably the only victory that many of us had in the Larian forums. Okay, and those are sort of the forums on their website where you can give them suggestions. But I mean, I succeeded in that regard. Some other people were helping with that effort. But other than Minthara, I am generally not satisfied with this game. I really did not think I would be saying this. I thought, this game is going to surpass my expectations, but it did not. It really did not. It's kind of, well, it is extremely disappointing. But hopefully, hopefully I can find, something better than this. I really, and of course I can. I mean, if I have to go back to older games, I will go back to older games, to be honest. But really, I think the next game I'm going to play is Armored Core 6. I'll see if I like that. But, I mean, my goodness. I really did not think this game would be this terrible. And all it needed, in my opinion, all Baldur's Gate 3 needed was a few more areas. They just needed to make this game a little bit bigger in scope. They just needed a few more areas. Okay? They just needed a few more events. They just need, they just needed something else. They needed something else. They really did. And unfortunately, I hated that character. That weird looking toad looking character. She was so stupid to me. But I didn't like most of the companions. The only companion I basically liked was Minthara. Basically everyone else was weird. I really did not like them. I did not like the Githyanki in general. I thought the Githyanki was pretty stupid. But that's just my opinion, but it's just that, it's not as though they were that terrible. But the game, I could not enjoy it because it was not big enough. Okay? There were plenty of excellent character interactions that were even better than a game like Dragon Age or Mass Effect or, many of the games that have come out. But to be honest, with a game this short and this small, no, I couldn't enjoy that. At this point, I am just going to tell you, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is looking better than it ever did now in my eyes. And I really feel like replaying that. I really do. I cannot trust a lot of these game companies anymore. The same thing happened with CD Projekt Red. A lot of people played The Witcher 3 and they thought Cyberpunk was going to be a great game. Oh, it's going to be so big, there's going to be so much to do. And it turned out that game was a disappointment as well. So, people wait years. People wait 6, if not 7 years for games to come out nowadays. People wait years, okay, for new games. And it is disappointing when a game comes out and it's just, there's not much in it. There's not much to do. It's pretty boring. Okay? And that's what this is. And another thing about the whole approval system, let me just talk about the approval system. A lot of times, it just becomes a whole game of basically trying to get as many approval points as you can. There's nothing, there's no benefit to not getting them to approve. So basically, your whole function is to basically just get as many approval points as possible. And that is a problem. Because it's especially boring. Why would I want to just get approval points? No. Can I have some interesting things happen if the characters do not approve of my character? Probably the most interesting thing that happens in this game is that they just leave your party. But to me, that's pretty boring. No, I would rather, the characters just literally, for example, let me give you an example. In Dragon Age 2, you could have friends and rivals. In other words, you could have a rival companion, a companion who was against you, or rather just did not like you particularly, but they still were in your party and they had a different relationship with you. And basically the whole emphasis was not just on getting approval. You could have them disapprove of you, but they would still stay in your party. Now, they would leave under certain circumstances, but still, there was a whole dynamic of rivals and friends and sort of allies and rivals, and it was very interesting. But you see, the approval system's gotten carried away because now most people just want to say polite things in order to get good responses and good approval points and have the benefits of high approval, instead of just trying to be honest with the characters and choose the responses that they feel they want to choose. I do not think approval systems in video games are very good. Not to say that I did not really enjoy a lot of the dialogue in these games. In this game, I really did. But this game leaves much to be desired, and that is the problem. It leaves too much to be desired. I can tell this game was rushed. I really can tell it was rushed, and it feels really, really bad. But I could let me think about what else I could talk about in regard to what I think about it. Actually, to tell you the truth, since this game is so short, there really is not very much to talk about. I'm not joking. There really is not very much to talk about. The game is too short. I had high expectations. And I'm disappointed. There's not much else I can say. So, people, this was quite enjoyable to just basically give my thoughts on it. But anyhow, and this is an interesting area. But areas like this are so small, and this is part of Act 1. But it's some small area. It's not really substantial, but I just put it that way. The game should have been bigger. It should have been far bigger. It should have had more areas. The ending was terrible. Basically, the evil ending is terrible. The good ending is terrible. And I expected more from Larian. I expected far more from Larian as a company, but people expected more from Cyberpunk. People expected more from a lot of these games. But who knows what is to come? Maybe they will add more things and patches. Who knows how the DLC is going to be? Who knows? But I think I'm going to end this video here because I really do not have much to say. May you all be blessed, and farewell.